Conference in Santin. We're live to him now. Good afternoon, Thami. A sharp focus on the Cape Mountain zebra touted as a conservation success.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back at the Santin Convention Center. It's the last day, at least for this week. The delegates now are going to take a break for the next 2 days, so they won't be here until Sunday because now they've dealt with quite a lot of other issues that they needed to deal with. I had a chat earlier on with the Minister of Environment here in South Africa to get a sense of how these 4 days or 6 days they've gone through, whether they are still hopeful that some of the issues that they are pushing through are going to be successful. Let's take a look.
The issue around Thami Dickson, quickly. No, there's no doom and gloom that you're thinking, my brother. In the corridors where we are working, we are hard at work. We don't quite count numbers yet. We are talking not across cross purpose, but we are talking for purpose of getting solutions at this conference. What you have seen, perhaps one should say, you say the domestic ivory issue failed. Those matters have actually been referred. The whole package of elephants, matters being dealt with elephant, have been referred to the working group. In the past 2 days, evenings up to around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, working groups have been working to try and consolidate. And I think that's actually where some of the almost near conclusion towards finding one another is actually happening. So let's wait until this COP or the working groups actually conclude. There's been circulation of papers, there've been sharing of different new views, because parties are not sitting back and saying, no, we are 29 in number. Because if we can do that, we actually be able to get our animals or fauna and flora winning, which is what must win. We can actually also say that much as we see things a bit different with our colleagues on the continent in the approach and the how, there is convergence of views that ours is actually to save our iconic species and our animals. That we agree upon. We agree upon the fact that we should stop poaching, stop corruption, and all those related matters. So the other how part of it is what we're working out right now. So it is too early, completely too early to even say there's doom and gloom and all is lost. We are working hard. As a matter of fact, I think we are very close to finding one another.
Well, that's our minister there, Edna Molewa, really summing up how this past 6 days has been in terms of the difficult issues that they are dealing with here. One of those issues is actually the manner in which this conference can try to address the demand for ivory that comes from the African continent. I had a chat earlier on with a Chinese expert because this conference has heard that much of this demand comes from Asia. Then we had a chat with a Chinese expert really to get a sense of what drives this demand in Asia. Let's take a look.
The demand in China in the last 10 years, I have seen it increase, and there was a traditional desire to have ivory in China, but the 2008 ivory sale, after the ivory sale, I literally witnessed the demand for ivory in China turned from a trickle to a flood. Many people who previously had no knowledge about ivory all of a sudden see ivory being sold on the market, and they take market availability of ivory for legality of trade. They're not able to tell where ivory comes from, what the legality of the source of that ivory. And so a lot of people, and also there is a big misconception. 70% of the Chinese do not know ivory comes from dead elephants.
Where do they think it comes from?
Because in Chinese, ivory is 象牙, which literally means elephant teeth. So people think as a person, teeth can fall off and people don't die. They thought that was the same for elephants. So based on that misconception, to dispel that misconception, IFAW in 2009 launched a demand reduction campaign. We tell people where ivory comes from and appeal to their sympathy or empathy for elephants. And that campaign had, in 4 years, penetrated 75% of urban China and reduced the people who are most likely to buy ivory from 54% to 26%.
There's a proposal which is supported by quite a lot of countries that domestic ivory markets must be closed. Can you tell us more about that debate? Because I understand that there were countries that were trying to close it down. Namibia, for instance, they wanted that debate to be closed and not be entertained at all, even though they lost. Where is the process now?
That debate, because Namibia wanted to close down in committee, and the parties did want to talk about that document. So that document went to a working group, which I was also a member of that working group. And the working group had developed a document which is a compromised document. And in the discussion last night, actually something very interesting happened, because in the discussion, quite a few countries, Namibia and South Africa and even Brazil, were continuing to try to not recognizing the link between having a domestic legal market with the poaching of elephants. Having a legal market contributes to poaching of elephants and the illegal trade. So they were trying to de-link that connection. And actually last night, China, interestingly enough, because China's president had pledged to close China's domestic market. Last September, he shook hands with President Obama and made that pledge. So China is determined to close their domestic markets. And they also felt that there is no link. I mean, there is China recognized there is a very direct link. Having their market is contributing to poaching. So China is becoming a champion for closing domestic market, and we love to see that.
Well, those are big developments here, with China making that announcement that it will close down its domestic ivory market. That's a huge step. China is a 2 billion population, and if they close down the market, it means that it will help in terms of reducing this demand for ivory. Well, with that, it's back to the studio.
Well, COP17 is well underway in Johannesburg.